Today we can go to a new topic, the integumentary system. Integumentary system means the skin and its appendages. Appendages means the extra parts or extra things that is added to the skin, like hair, sweat gland, sebaceous gland. All these are extra parts of the skin. So skin and the appendages comes under a separate system which is called integumentary system. We know the skin is the external covering of the body and it is the largest organ also, that constitute 15 to 20% of the total body weight. There are two different types of skin, thick skin and thin skin. We know almost all parts of our body are covered by thin skin. Only thin skin are having hairs. So the thick skin is present in sole, palm and the scalp. We'll see the difference between thin and thick. Thin skin has a thin epidermis. Already the skin has two layers, epidermis and dermis. Epidermis is nothing but the epithelium. Dermis is the connective tissue which is present just below the epithelium. Then the thin skin contains hair follicle, sebaceous gland, and it is found in all parts of the body except palms and soles. If we are taking thick skin has a thick epidermis and they are hairless. No hairs are present or no hair follicles are present in the thick skin. It is found in the palm of the hand and sole of the foot. So this is the structure of a thin skin. While seeing the structure, how we can identify whether it is thick or thin? Thin because it is having hair follicles. Now we will see the structure of the skin. Skin consists of two layers, epidermis and dermis. Epidermis is the epithelium. So epithelium of the skin is called stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. Then the deep layer is called dermis, which is made up of connective tissue. And this layer, the deep layer, consists of two parts. A papillary layer and a reticular layer that we will see later. Now, skin consists of two types of projections. They are called papillae. We can see dermal papillae as well as epidermal papillae. So, epidermal papillae is the finger-like projection of epidermis, which is projecting from epidermis to the dermis. Dermal papilla means the finger-like projection of the dermis to the epidermis. So both are forming finger-like projections from epidermis as well as from the dermis. The papillae is formed. If we are seeing the epidermis, we will see different layers. We know stratified squamous keratinized epithelium consists of different layers of cells. The basal layer is the columnar. Then the middle part, which is made up of 3 or 4 layers of the polygonal. Then we can see squamous cells. Then above the squamous cells, we will see keratin. That is a typical stratified squamous keratinized epithelium. So the same epithelium is having different name. Same epithelium is having different names in different layers. And these name of the layer, the name of these layers are called stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and stratum corneum. Stratum means layer. So the layers are basal, spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, and cornea. Here in this picture, it is showing the different layers. Stratum basale, stratum spinosum, granulosum, lucidum, and the topmost is a cornea. If you're taking the stratum basale, which is made up of columnar cells that rest over basement membrane. Stratum spinosum means which is made up of 4 to 6 layers of polygonal cells or polyhedral cells. You can see in this picture another, and each cells of the polygonals are connected by strong desmosomes. They are the strong cell junctions, desmosomes. So while preparing tissue, the cells are not detached at the site of presence of desmosomes or at the site of cell junctions, and the remaining parts are free. So that looks like having spines from the surface of the cell. That is why this layer of cells are called stratum spinosum. Okay, now after the stratum spinosum, we can see stratum granulosum. Stratum granulosum is a granular layer, means they are made up of squamous cells with the granules inside. They are flattened cells with the granules inside. That's why it is called stratum granulosum. And its cytoplasm is filled by keratohyalin granules. Now, after the granulosum is the stratum lucidum. The cell boundaries are not distinct in the lucidum. Lucid means clear. Cell boundaries are not prominent. So, all the cells, it is looking like the cells are without boundaries, and we can see only the cytoplasm. So, it is having a clear appearance. Then the stratum corneum. Stratum corneum is acellular. It is made up keratin filaments that embedded in protein. Then the cells of the epidermis. While we check the different cells of the epidermis, we can see it consists of keratinocytes for the formation of keratin, melanocytes, which is responsible for the synthesis of melanin, dendritic cells of Langerhans for immune response, Merkel's cells, which is specialized sensory cells. Merkel cells are sensory cells. Dendritic cells of Langerhans are cells which is responsible for the immune response. Then apart from these two, we have keratinocytes and melanocytes in the epidermal layer. Now we can move to the dermis. Dermis is made up of connective tissue and it is divided into two layers. Means dermis itself has two parts. First part is a papillary layer, which is a superficial layer of the dermis. It is more close to the epidermis. The part which is close to the epidermis is the papillary part of the dermis, and it is made up of dense connective tissue, more prominent in thick skin. This layer is more prominent in thick skin. Then the deep layer is called a reticular layer. It is the deep layer and it consists mainly thick bundles of collagen fibers and number of elastic fibers. So the reticular layer consists of collagen and elastic fibers. Now we will move to the nerve endings which is present in the skin. You know, skin is a sensory organ. It takes all the general sensations. So for receiving the general sensation, it should have some nerve endings. It should have some sense organs. And we will check out what are the nerve endings, or what are the sensory organs, sensory perceptives which is present in the skin. One is free nerve ending that occurs in epidermis and dermis. Free nerve ending is present in the epidermis and dermis. Then encapsulated nerve ending. Encapsulated nerve endings are the Pacinian corpuscles, mucinous corpuscles and Ruffini's endings. So different types of encapsulated nerve endings are there. One is Pacinian corpuscles. Pacinian corpuscles are helping for the reception of pressure change. Mucinous corpuscles and Ruffini's nerve endings. So these are the different nerve endings present in the skin, and these are helping for the perception of different kinds of sensation. Well, moving to the functions of the skin, we know it provides a mechanical protection to the underlying tissues. It prevents loss of water from the body. It is important sensory organ, and it regulates the body temperature. This is a picture of skin showing a thick keratin which is given in the high pink color. Then below that you can see the different layers of the skin, the epidermis of the skin. Stratum basale, stratum spinosum, stratum granulosum, stratum lucidum, and cornea. We will see the difference between thick skin and thin skin. How to identify the thick from thin? Thin is having hair follicles. If hair follicles are present, that definitely is a thin skin. These are the differences between thick and thin skin. It has difference in epidermis and in layers, then hair, sebaceous gland and erector pili muscles, sweat gland, sensory receptors. So before going to the erector pili, I will explain you what is erector pili. Erector pili is a muscle which is present in the skin, which is helping for the contraction of the contraction of this erector pili muscle is helping for the goose flush effect of the hair follicle. So it is seen attached with the hair follicles. Wherever hair follicles are there, erector pili muscles will be there. So erector pili will be present only in thin skin. Now let's see what are the differences between thick and thin. In thick skin, the epidermis is thick, but in thin skin, the epidermis is thin. In thick skin, there are 5 layers present, but in thin skin, the stratum lucidum is absent. Then hair, sebaceous glands, erector pili muscles are absent in the thick skin, but all these are present in the thin skin. Sweat glands are more in thick skin. They are few in thin skin. Sensory receptors are more in thick skin, which is less in thin skin. So these are the difference between thick skin and thin skin. So how to identify the thick skin from thin skin? Thick is devoid of hair follicle. So the associated structures are absent in thick, and the thick will be having a thick layer of keratin in its outer part. This is a true section of the thin skin. Here you can see the hair follicles. So presence of hair follicles are thick. The presence of hair follicle shows that it is a thin skin. Then the different appendages of the skin are hair, nail, sebaceous gland and sweat gland. We will continue with the next class.